Good afternoon and welcome to the March 2018 jobs report from the Stuyvesant Square Consultancy. If you're a newcomer, I'll explain to you how we lay out this graph. Here in the gold is the average weekly wages of the various sector occupations shown here. We use a blue field for the prior month's jobs. We use a red field for the current month's jobs, and of course the weekly wages are in gold. Average weekly wages are displayed here along the left matrix, and the jobs created are listed here in tens of thousands on the right axis. This month's job report was disappointing in that only 103,000 of the anticipated 193,000 jobs were created. We also saw that most of the jobs created were less than the jobs that had been created in February, but then again, February had spectacular jobs creation. So we lost jobs in construction. We attribute most of that to the weather that affected the Northeast. We saw jobs creation in utilities, which we presume came mostly from the storms that knocked down so much of the wiring. But as you can see, the only sectors that actually improved their jobs creation over February job creation was the wholesale trade. We do a write-up on our jobs report at seekingalpha.com, and you can find the link later in this presentation on another slide. So overall, our view of this jobs report is kind of what you would say just right. Not great, not too hot, not too cold, but decent. And the reason we say that is that for the 3 months of January and February and March, we had in excess of 200,000 jobs created on average. We also had an average of 200,000 jobs created for the 3 months ending in February. So, and then if you go back to January, when the average 3 months job creation was just 189,000, and you take the average of those 3 months averages of job creation, if you take that average of the average, you still end up with 205,000 jobs. So generally we're on a favorable trend because there is some correlation between that 3-month average of the averages correlating to higher GDP. The last time we saw 3 months of average 3-month job creation exceeding 200,000 was in September of 2016 when GDP printed at 2.8%. There are things, nevertheless, that concern us in the economy. We are troubled by the yield curve. The 3-month and the 10-year recently narrowed so far as 96 basis points. That's the second time that it has dipped below 100 basis points in at least over a year. So there's a lot of flight from the market and into treasuries safety. And given the volatility of the market in the last several weeks, who can blame them? The other thing that concerns us is the LIBOR overnight interest rate swap spread. That number has gone over 60 basis points last I checked. And that's concerning because it talks to the credit risk of the banks. Now we know that Deutsche Bank in Germany is having difficulties, but when you consider that most all of these banks are laid off against each other in one means or another, that high spread between the LIBOR and OIS rates is disconcerting and should trouble the market. So that's another issue that concerns us. We are less concerned with this purported trade war between President Trump and the Chinese. What people are saying is, well, and this is most of what troubles people, is, well, what happens if China stops buying or even sells U.S. treasuries? Then our interest rates will go up, our economy will close, and we'll go into a recession. That's really not true. And if you look back, the Federal Reserve is the buyer of last resort of U.S. treasuries. And we saw that with quantitative easing when they blew up their balance sheet up to in excess of $4 trillion. Well, they could do that again if the Chinese stopped buying our debt. It's a way overblown theory in our view. I'm not at all concerned that China is going to beat us in a trade war. Moreover, if you consider what Larry Kudlow, the president's chief economic advisor, was saying, if you organize what he calls a coalition of the willing, meaning the nations of Europe, Japan, Canada, South Korea, and Australia, to unite with us against China's unfair trade practices, their thefts of intellectual property, their manipulations of the yuan, all of the things that they do to export their problems, their unemployment abroad, and keep their workers employed and not marching with pitchforks against the CCP in Beijing, then you would realize a fair trade dividend, which would, we anticipate, be enormous. So we're not really terribly concerned about that. Actually, we see fairly good play in the future of this economy. Not quite 3% GDP in the first quarter, we think, when it prints, but fairly high, probably in the range of 2.8% or 2.5 to 2.8%, I think is our current estimate. Anyway, you can read more about this in our more detailed posting on seekingalpha.com, and that's all laid out in the detail in the following slides. Other places you'll see this where we posted originally and how you can access it. All right. Take care. Have a good month, and we will see you when GDP prints. Thanks. Bye. We first publish our jobs report under our client advisories and our flash reports at www.stysquare.com here. This is where the information is first produced. We also report them up on our Twitter account, which is @StySquare. Then in our LinkedIn account, the Stuyvesant Square Consultancy. Finally, we put the jobs report data up on our Facebook page, which is the Stuyvesant Square Consultancy here. Usually on the afternoon of the report, we write an exclusive report for seekingalpha.com that's available free of charge. You just have to register with your name and email on their site, and we go into additional discussion about the economic aspects of the report, the macro effects, and the effects on certain types of companies and the stock market generally. And if you wish, you can subscribe to our mailing list. We send out a monthly newsletter that has free and premium content. If you wish, you can also subscribe and become a premium subscriber. That's under the Contact Us information on our website. That concludes our analysis of the July 2017 jobs report. You can read more about it in our analysis on Seeking Alpha. We'll be back again on Jobs Friday in September with the August jobs report, barring any big changes that should affect that might affect the economy or the job situation. Thanks very much. We look forward to speaking to you next month. Stay in touch with us at our Twitter feed, our LinkedIn feed, or on YouTube. We'll speak to you soon. Bye.